In 2019, WeWork was worth $47 billion. 12,500 employees, 111 cities, the fastest growing commercial real estate company in history. Then, in less than 90 days, it lost $39 billion in value. Not because the concept was broken, not because the market disappeared, but because scaling, the very thing that made it look unstoppable, was quietly dismantling everything underneath it. That's what we're breaking down today. The real reason scaling kills more companies than failure ever will. Most founders, most executives, most investors, they treat scaling as the goal. Get to product market fit, then scale. Scale fast, scale hard, scale before your competitors do. It's the dominant logic of modern business, and it's exactly why so many companies that look unstoppable suddenly aren't. This is not a video about avoiding growth. It's about understanding what growth actually demands, and why most organizations are not built to survive it. Here's what nobody tells you about scaling. Scaling doesn't amplify your strengths. It amplifies everything. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your communication gaps, your cultural cracks, your operational blind spots. When you're a team of 10, a broken process is an inconvenience. When you're a team of 1,000, that same broken process is a structural fault line. WeWork's core model, lease long, rent short, worked perfectly across their first 10 locations. The cash flows made sense. The margins were manageable. But when they scaled to 600 plus locations, that same model became a $47 billion liability, because scaling multiplied the risk, not just the revenue. And this is the trap. Most leaders look at scaling as a multiplication problem. If 10 locations generate X revenue, 100 locations generate 10X. But scaling is not multiplication. Scaling is transformation. The organization you are at 10 people is structurally different from the organization you must become at 1,000. The culture that worked at 50 employees actively breaks at 500. The decision-making that made you agile at the start makes you paralyzed at scale. Not because your people stopped caring, not because your product stopped working, but because the organization outgrew the systems that were designed to hold it together. So what do the companies that successfully scale actually do differently? The answer is not what most leaders expect. It's not hiring faster. It's not raising more capital. It's not even having a better product. It's building the infrastructure of the future organization before you need it. Think about how a city is built. Before a single skyscraper goes up, engineers design the drainage systems, the electrical grids, the road networks, infrastructure the buildings will never see, but that every building depends on. The companies that survive scaling do the same thing. They stop asking, how do we grow faster? And start asking, what needs to be true about our organization for this growth to be survivable? If you're finding this useful, subscribe. We break down the real structural logic behind business success and failure every week without shortcuts. 3 things must be institutionalized before you scale, not after. The first, decision-making architecture. At scale, decisions can no longer flow through the founder or the CEO. You need a documented decision framework. Who decides what, at what level, without escalation. Adam Neumann was making decisions across 600 locations that should have been embedded in policy. Speed at scale requires distributed authority, not centralized heroism. The second, operational redundancy. Every critical process must have a documented system and a trained backup. Not a person, a system. People leave, systems stay. The moment your operation depends on one individual knowing how something works, you have a single point of failure inside a scaling machine. The third, culture as a written operating system. In a team of 20, culture lives in the room. In a team of 2,000, culture must live in documentation, in hiring criteria, in onboarding, in performance frameworks. The companies that lose their culture at scale are not the companies that didn't care. They're the companies that never wrote it down. Here's the real problem with scaling. It creates the illusion of progress. Revenue goes up. Headcount climbs. Office space expands. Press coverage multiplies. From the outside, everything looks like success. But beneath the metrics, the organization is accumulating what engineers call technical debt. Business leaders rarely have a name for the equivalent. Call it structural debt. Every shortcut taken to grow faster. Every process skipped because we'll fix it when we're bigger. Every role filled with the wrong person because we needed someone now. Every cultural violation tolerated because this isn't the right time. That debt compounds, and it becomes visible at exactly the wrong moment. When the organization is at its most complex, its most exposed, and its most difficult to change. WeWork didn't collapse because the office market turned. Quibi didn't fail because nobody wanted mobile video. Jawbone didn't die because wearables weren't viable. They collapsed because they scaled the revenue, without building the infrastructure that revenue required to survive. Speed without structure is destruction in disguise. The companies that endure are not the companies that scaled fastest. They're the companies that built the capacity to carry the weight of their own growth. That is the discipline most organizations skip. And it is the gap between a company that is growing and a company that is built to last. If your organization is scaling right now, or preparing to, the question is not, how fast can we grow? It is, what needs to be built before we grow? Build the infrastructure. Systemize the decisions. Write the culture down. Subscribe to Real Kintax for structured thinking on the decisions that determine whether organizations win or collapse.